Okay, Amy. So today's guest was such a fun and entertaining and positive guest. And she has such a different approach to feeding her family. And I loved it. And I totally appreciate it. Tiffany hates to cook and almost never cooks. And you'll find out where she and her husband usually purchase or prep their meals for their family every week. And quite frankly, as someone who is paranoid to go out to eat for several reasons, I actually completely understood her position after she put it to me. She is a full-time working mom, and she has some awesome tips about shortcuts and mastering it. And I think everyone's going to be really entertained, and it'll be eye-opening for many of you, or maybe more relating than I realize.
I was so bummed when I listened to this interview that I didn't have to have a chance to be on, because I was like, I had so many questions. But you're right. By the end, I just thought, wow, there is a different approach for everyone. And what I took away most from this interview with Tiffany, which was fantastic, by the way, you did such a great job. But what I took away the most is like, we are making ourselves crazy with the things that we tell ourselves we have to do as parents. And that list is longer than just food. I know it, if you are anything like me. And I really do think that there's something to simplifying your life. And what's so cool about Tiffany and her family is it's not that healthy eating isn't important to them. And you'll hear more about how they eat healthy while eating out in this interview. But they also don't let it be another thing on the list to drive themselves crazy. And gosh, if we don't all need one less thing on our list to drive ourselves crazy, I am in the wrong place.
I loved it. And I loved that she was pretty unapologetic about it. Like, she wasn't into this as a guilt place. She knew her competencies, she knew her skills, and she loved herself for them, and she wasn't going to apologize for it. And that I really admired, because I feel like I go into things, I'm like, I'm inadequate, I can't do this. And she was just like, this is what we do, and it works. And I was like, crap.
You're right. And what was so cool about it was that it was also a really conscientious decision. Like, this isn't something she happened upon where they just, accidentally started eating out and never stopped, which sometimes feels like it might be what happens to my family when we're in the thick of really challenging times. But they had just made a choice that this wasn't going to be something that they spent the precious time that they had with their kids on.
Yeah.
That's the sentence. And, for me, cooking is joyous. And so that will remain a part of my life. But I can think of at least 3 things off the top of my head that I could make a more conscientious decision around and just let go of.
Yeah, I love that Tiffany really just calls a spade a spade. So let's dive right in, because I know you all want to hear from her. It's going to be awesome. Hey everyone, I am very grateful to introduce Tiffany Currie, who has joined us today on Real Food Talk with Real Parents. And Tiffany hates to cook and never does. And that's why we're so excited to have her on. And she is out of Texas. She's a civil engineer, and she also owns another business. And I'm really excited to dive right in and have everybody learn all about Tiffany and her life. And she has 2 little kids, 1 and 3. So I'm excited to have somebody who doesn't like to cook on the show. So thank you and welcome, Tiffany. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit or a lot of it about yourself?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Emily. So you might be the first person that ever said they were excited about the fact that I don't like to cook. So thank you for that. I'm glad it's coming in handy once in my life.
There you go.
Yeah. So as you said, I am a Texan. I've lived in Texas my whole life. And I am a mama of 2 cute, crazy little toddlers. Jackson is my oldest. He's 3. And he might sneak out of his bedroom at any moment. He should be sleeping right now, but you know how that goes.
Oh, yeah.
I have a 1-year-old, Kyler. She's a girl. So those 2 definitely keep me busy. And on top of being a wife and a mama, I'm also a civil engineer. So I work for a consulting engineering firm. And basically what I do is municipal work. So I design roadways and utilities. So all the things that are critical to society that nobody ever thinks about or cares about unless there's a problem.
Right. I know what you're saying.
Basically, you don't want to have to think about me. If you think about me, there's a problem.
I love that.
And I also recently launched a new business. So I'm in the process of building a business and a brand. And so, yeah, my hands are kind of full and we're busy.
I love it. You have a very full plate, as we say.
Yeah.
That's great. So what does that mean for you in your home, in your schedule, and the way that you're able to feed your kids and yourself and your husband? How does that look?
Yeah. So yeah, we're definitely busy. I work full time, as I said. So I'm in the office from 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Thursday, and then half days on Fridays. So what that means is that, I mean, even if I liked cooking, which I don't, it would be really challenging for me to cook during the week. I've got, like I said, two tiny little kiddos, and they both go to bed pretty early. It's by 7:30, my daughter's in the bed and my son's in the bed by 8 each night.
Mhm.
So we get home at 6. I've got about 2 hours with them in the evenings, and there's no way I'm going to spend 45 minutes of that time cooking. So it presents a challenge for sure. But most nights what we do is my husband and I will kind of divide and conquer. One of us picks up the kids and the other one will pick up dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I try my best to find healthy restaurants, and we joke and we talk about we eat at the places where all the senior citizens eat, the places that have lots of veggies. That's where we go most often. So we
That is so
have
funny.
a place here called Luby's. I don't know if you guys have that. Luby's and Traditions. Basically, they're kind of cafeteria style places, but you can go and you get a meat and 2 sides. So they have, it's almost like home cooking, but of course it's from a restaurant. But I'm able to get vegetables that my kids love vegetables. So I'm able to get veggies for them and a meat and good yummy food for us on the go. So we default to places like that.
That's awesome. It's good that you have those places, because around here it's usually either high-end restaurant or fast food only. So you're kind of looking at, what am I doing? I mean, there are plenty of options, but for affordability and health, it's hard to do both.
Yes. Yeah, totally.
That's cool. It's so interesting that you're, I love this. This is wild to me because of the way that I grew up, or the way that we're raising our kids now. But it also sounds like what you just said hit home for me, which is you're not going to spend the 45 minutes you get with your kids cooking, because it's a direct attention directed away from them. So I think you've really hit the nail on the head on the value of that. Is like, no, well, I can find healthy food and we'll pick it up and we'll feed it and we'll all spend that time together. So it's not so much that you don't want to spend that time for them, it's that you want to spend it with them.
Absolutely. 100%.
I really appreciate that. I can completely understand where you're coming from, working such a long day. Like, who wants to stand on their feet now and cook?
Right. Right.
I only do it because I'm here in the morning and I can do most of it throughout the day, not like in a quick window.
Yes.
It makes a lot of sense to me. So kind of do you find that you can get a variety doing something like that for your kids? Or do you feel like your kids,
I would say we get a moderate variety. We're on a rotation, I would say. There's probably 2 restaurants we go to almost every single week.
Okay.
And then the others rotate. So we go to a place called Traditions and then Cotton Patch. Do you guys have Cotton Patch?
No.
Nope. I think it's a southern place.
Yeah.
But again, it's kind of like, I don't know what to compare it to in your area, but
yeah.
you can go and get, mashed potatoes, fried okra, chicken fried steak, meatloaf, staples, I would say.
Okay.
So we're there probably twice a week, and then we rotate through other options like Chinese food or Italian food or things like that.
Oh, very cool. All right.
Yeah.
So how does that affect your budget? Does it change because different places are more expensive, or how do you budget if you budget?
I am not, I don't love budgeting. My husband's more of the budgeter for sure. But so what my husband and I decided early on, I mean, obviously we've always been busy even before we had kids, and before we had kids, we still didn't cook very often. We felt like for us, we could go out to eat just as cheap as we could go buy groceries. Because anytime, maybe because we didn't cook as often, so we didn't meal plan and intentionally make the meals tie together. If we were going to cook something, we would say, okay, we're going to have pasta tonight or whatever the dish was. And then we would go buy $100 or $30 worth of groceries for that one meal.
Right.
You know, and you cook it and you eat it and you just spent $30 at the grocery store. Well, we could have gone out to eat for 20 or 25.
Right.
Because chances were slim that we were really going to eat the leftovers. So when it was just the two of us, we decided, hey, we can eat out for almost as cheap as we can cook. Probably because we don't shop super efficiently. I'm sure that has something to do with it. But now that we've had kids, it's kind of similar. Now we could probably be more intentional and cook cheaper at home, but
yeah,
we don't.
Yeah, well, it's a lifestyle, right? You've chosen it because it works for you guys.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that completely. So how about during the day for like breakfast, lunch? So it sounds like you guys buy dinner, but how does that work for you and for the kids?
Yes. So the kids, thankfully their lunch is provided at school.
Okay.
So we don't have to pack a lunch for them. We did go through a phase at one of the daycares. We moved about a year ago to a new town. Actually, it's closer to my family, so that was a blessing.
Yeah.
But in our previous town, they did not provide lunch at the kids' school, and it nearly killed both of us having to pack lunches every night. And I know the day will come again when we'll have to. Once they get in elementary school, they'll want us to pack their lunches. But it was tough, like having to, you know, prep bottles and get their little diaper bags ready and pack a lunch and try to be creative on what you were giving them that was healthy.
Yes.
They couldn't heat it, so that was really challenging. So we did have a phase where we had to pack lunches for the kids, and honestly, that was not fun. So I'm super happy that we don't have to do that now. So the kids' school provides lunch for them, so that's awesome. My husband and I both eat out probably 80% of the time during the week for lunch with our coworkers. And the kids do eat breakfast at home. We'll usually have fruit or cereal, little like pig in the blanket. So they'll eat a quick breakfast before we head out in the mornings.
Okay. So that's basically like the main dishes that you do at home.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Wow. Interesting. This is so cool. I know you probably think this is not interesting. What are you talking about? But I find it interesting because there's such a gamut of people, and a lot of it has to do with where you live and what resources are at your disposal.
Definitely.
And I mean, it sounds like you're both working professionals, so yeah, those are long days to be thinking about meal prep all week. It's like you have enough mind space taken up with the things you're doing at work and what have you.
Yeah.
You want someone else to just take care of that, and I can appreciate that. However, I feel like I recently heard you saying that you were going to try and cook more. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. So I have given myself a self-imposed cooking challenge. My husband has been super understanding of the fact that I rarely cook.
That's good.
But I do feel like it's a way that I can serve my family. Even though it's not something I particularly love doing, I do love serving my family, and I love seeing them happy. So I've decided that once a week, I am going to have a home-cooked meal for them to be able to eat by me.
Yes.
Not at Nana's house. So the way that I've been accomplishing that is, one, I went on Facebook and announced it to the world to hold myself accountable that I'm going to do this so you guys can ask me about it. You can see how I'm doing. And this is the second week. So I'm still fresh, but I'm doing good. I have not fallen off the bandwagon yet. So the way that I am planning on accomplishing this is by cooking on the weekend, most likely Sunday afternoons, because that's kind of a low-key time at our house. So I find something that's simple to do. I go grocery shopping on Friday afternoons, because I mentioned earlier I'm off on Friday afternoons. So I go grocery shopping on Friday afternoons, and then Sunday I'll cook whatever we're going to have, and we'll eat it on, Monday or Tuesday or something.
Oh, cool. All right. That makes a lot of sense. So that's exciting. What prompted that? Anything specific where you're just like, I'm
really not even sure. My husband made a couple of he's a super sarcastic guy. So he made a few really sarcastic comments about well, you're just never going to cook again. It's just never going to happen. And, we joked about it for probably years.
Yeah.
But the jokes were getting a little more frequent. So I was like, maybe he wants me to cook. I wonder if he would like for me to do that. So I told him that I would start doing it once a week. And it seemed like I want for my daughter and my son to not have that aspect of their life missing. Like they've never seen their parents cook, which I didn't mention this earlier, but my husband does cook a lot on the weekends. He loves barbecue and smoked meat. So he cooks a lot on the weekends. I didn't mention what we do on the weekends, but we do eat at home a fair amount on Saturdays and Sundays because he'll cook in. So.
And you shop on Friday, so you probably feel like you plan for the weekend and then.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. That's cool. So that does bring me to the question. So he does some cooking on the weekends. And how do you, as far as cleaning up whatever meals you're having, is there sort of a divide and conquer process for you and him?
Yeah. So that's funny you would mention that. My husband and I have very different philosophies on this. I feel like if I cook, you should wash the dishes. That seems like a fair trade-off.
Yes.
I prepared the food, now you clean up. And he does the opposite. Like when he gets in the kitchen, he cooks, he makes a huge mess, and he cleans it all up by himself. So I almost have to force him to let me help him clean up. So it's kind of a balancing act. What I've learned is that if I'm cooking and I expect help with cleanup, I need to tell him that in advance. Hey, I'm cooking today, so I need you to wash the dishes when I'm done. And he'll usually do that. But yeah, I'd say 85% of the time, it's both of us in the kitchen. Like we'll cook and feed everybody and have some fun family time, get the kids in bed, and then we'll wash the dishes after they go to sleep together.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Yeah. So I'd be curious, you mentioned like your Nana or their Nana. How does the fact that you don't like cooking, is it affected by the way you were brought up? Is it not affected? How does that work into the equation of the way that you live now?
Yeah. So the super weird and ironic thing is that both of my parents are awesome cooks. Actually, most of the people in my family are really good cooks. We definitely did eat out often as a family, a couple times a week, I guess. I would say maybe on the high side of average growing up, but not all the time. Both my parents cook often, very regularly. My dad would get up every Saturday morning and make breakfast for the whole family. And, my mom worked full time and still had a perfectly clean house and a hot cooked meal every night. And the laundry was always caught up. There were never piles of laundry. So she was basically Superwoman. I didn't realize it at the time, but now I'm like, how did you do that, Mom? I literally ask her that all the time. Because I don't know.
That is amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. She must have had energy, like crazy energy.
That's my thing, because I'm like, at the end of the day, I'm tired.
Yeah. I'm not going to stay up late folding laundry. It can wait till tomorrow.
No way. Exactly. Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll still be there tomorrow.
Yeah. So how do you feel about, I guess one thing that I would be thinking about, and it sounds like you touched upon how you want your kids to have an experience of the mom cooking for them and providing for them. Mm-hmm. Do you also feel a little bit like you want them as they get older, you may want to teach them how to cook so that they know when they're older? Is that part of it too? Or
I definitely think that is something that is important for sure. And I would never point fingers at my parents or blame them for anything. But my husband always asks me, like, how is it that your parents are great cooks and you don't cook? And it's not really that I'm a bad cook, because I can follow a recipe, but that's not freestyle, right? But I really believe a big part of that is that my parents cooked so often, and like a lot of us, they're kind of controlling of their kitchen, so they didn't want me in there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they would be like, we got it. And even if I wanted to surprise them with a meal or cook for them, like they would do it first. So I never really got a chance to do it. And I don't think that was them, trying to be mean in any way. They were trying to serve us, their kids, but then I never actually cooked.
Mm,
So in the long run, that was not helpful. So I
right.
do think that it's really important for my kids to have practice cooking. And I don't know how I'll implement that.
Mm,
Even now, I'll let my son, when I do cook, I'll let him, help me stir things and mix things up because he's 3 and they
yeah.
love that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So I'm trying to get him involved now, but yeah, I want for both of them to be able to do that, and maybe they'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that you said you follow recipe because you are an engineer, right? So
Right. Yeah. I
I
don't
was
like
like,
a pinch of anything. What is that? What does that
what does
mean?
that even mean? Tell me exactly in grams.
Right. Exactly.
It's perfect. But you know what? I do think that part of it is personality. Like, if this isn't what you like to do, then it's not what you like to do. You probably would be better at baking because everything's very specific.
And I do love baking.
Do
Yes.
you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I do find that baking is more of a methodical process
Mm-hmm.
and cooking is more of a, throw it in, like
Yeah.
cooking a meal.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
so, that's so funny. I was about to ask you a question about, in your area, do people generally dine out more? Like, what kind of area are you in Texas?
So, like I said, we recently moved to a smaller town in East Texas. And we've only been here for a little under a year. In our previous community, I would say we were in an area that people dined out often.
Mm-hmm.
There was so many restaurants, like you couldn't even count. We were in Plano, Texas, it's a suburb of Dallas Metroplex. And so, I mean, you can't even count how many restaurants are in like a 5-mile radius. And where we were living at the time, we were like in the middle of everything in West Plano. So it was an area that there's like a general awareness for health. So you have lots of gyms and fitness facilities, and you also have juice bars and lots of really healthy options. So it made things super easy. There were all sorts of places that we could just stop in and grab like really healthy food on the go.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was super, super common and super normal. Everybody probably ate out all the time. It's definitely different here. I don't think you don't have that same dynamic at all. But there's still plenty of
Options. Yeah.
options for the size town that we're in.
That's cool. Yeah. I was just wondering because if you went out to eat more when you were young, I just thought, well, maybe it's just almost like a, not cultural, but subcultural.
Yeah.
Because some places that we speak to people, they're kind of in a rural place. There's a couple good
Mhm.
places, but you're not going to go, out every night,
Yeah.
whatever.
That's a good point.
So I just thought, well, maybe this is just the thing of that area, I would be curious. I know you eat out a lot, but when you do shop, do you tend to buy some of the prepackaged stuff to make it simpler to cook, or how do you approach that?
Definitely.
Okay.
Anything that's easier, I'm going to go for it.
Cool.
I try to be aware of, if it's something that has lots of sodium, I'll go with frozen vegetables instead of canned vegetables and things like that. But definitely, if I can get veggies that are already chopped, like onions and bell peppers, I will pay extra to get it already chopped, so I don't have to do that when I get home.
Yeah.
Any sort of shortcut, I definitely will take it. But yeah, anything that's
Okay.
prepackaged or pre-cut or pre-diced, all that good stuff.
Do you have like a favorite packaged thing that you would be like, everyone should know about this?
So my kids actually love vegetables. So we always have the packages of frozen vegetables that you can just pop in the microwave and heat up, corn and broccoli. Always, like, our refrigerator is not fully stocked ever, but we always have that on hand. And then there's a brand called Amy's Frozen. They're like frozen, like microwave dinners basically.
Yes.
And they're organic and they don't have lots of crap added to them.
Yes.
So I discovered them years ago when I was doing, different, like fast basically with my church where we would give up certain
Yes.
things. And so I loved those because I could literally read the back of the box and pronounce everything on the back, and I recognized everything that was in it. So I don't give the kids frozen meals very often, but if I do, it's Amy's. I really like that brand.
You know what? That is the second time that has come up. So that tells me that it's a really good, someone had said Amy's. I'm like, I need to find this Amy's because I don't know if they have it up here, but occasionally there are times where you just need to do that. Or maybe you're going out on a date and you just trust the kids and you're like, here to the babysitter. That's cool. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
It does sound like, yes, you guys eat out a lot, but you're still very conscious of what you eat. For the most part. I mean, it doesn't sound like, and correct me if I'm wrong, do you have any specific things you don't eat or anything diet-wise or allergy-wise or any kind of contingencies with, your eating style for you or your husband or your kids?
Yeah. So up until about 6 months ago, my answer would have been no, absolutely not. We'll eat anything. We'll try anything. And I'm a big believer in anything in moderation, right?
Yeah.
I love to eat, and I want my kids to love food in a healthy way. But my daughter has developed, well, I don't know, you would say developed or was born with some allergies. And I don't know exactly what they are yet. We actually have an appointment this Wednesday. But I suspect she has a pretty significant or severe allergy to peanuts and fish. And so I don't know if it's all fish or if shellfish is a part of that. I know for sure fish. She's had some reactions to it. So we've started to avoid seafood as a family a little bit, just until I know for sure, because she was so young when she had her first reactions. The doctor didn't want her to be tested yet, and so she's just now old enough that he's in us to a specialist. So we'll find out soon.
So you don't know where that journey might take you as far as like, where you're going to be serving her from restaurants and
exactly.
Well, maybe that's a good reason to start cooking at home, just because you know what's in it, and then you won't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
that's cool. It's funny. I always find that it's the kids that end up putting you on this path that you didn't expect.
Yes.
In anything in life.
Yes,
right.
It's so true.
All of a sudden,
they make you want to be better.
Yeah, because you start being like, for instance, like I think you saw my youngest broke her leg.
Yes.
And, it's been an interesting journey because yes, it's stressful, but everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But like, I've already made such an appreciation for the playgrounds that have handicap swings and I'm like, I would have never looked at that.
Never even thought about it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I would have noticed it, but I don't think I would be like, hey, where's the handicap swing at this playground? And now,
right.
So I feel like children just make you see the world from so many perspectives, and then you become like their little advocate.
Yes.
So it's good. I mean, maybe it'll be a good thing, even though it sounds like a bummer for her. But interesting, very interesting. Do you have what you might call like a superpower when it comes to like, feeding your family? I know we've already talked a lot about how you do it, but do you feel like you have something to share there?
Honestly, I feel like at this point, my biggest superpower is actually my kids themselves, because I mentioned this already, but they love vegetables. And I feel like this is where they excel. There's so many areas where I'm like, neither one of my kids slept through the night till they were like a year old. And like, there's just all this stuff, but they really excel in this area, and I hope they continue to. But they love veggies, so it makes it really easy for me. I'm not trying to like trick them or hide things in different foods, but they'll just eat them. And so I try to literally not sugarcoat things. When I give them fruit, I just give them fruit. Like, I try not to add anything to it, just let them eat pure things as pure as possible. So that works out really well. It makes it easier on me.
But
they like those.
That's great. And I appreciate what you're saying there. I too have children whose one of their best things about them is that they're great eaters.
Yes.
And none of them sleep well.
Right.
They're all in my bed in the middle of the night, almost every single night. And there's other battles that I've waved my white flag. And I'm just grateful that I'm like, you guys are great eaters.
Yes.
It's all good. We'll figure out the sleep thing later, you know?
Exactly.
So that's good. Good for you. I can appreciate that. You're like, I'm doing something right.
Right. One area, we're winning.
One area for now in this
Right.
phase, in this moment in time.
Exactly.
What about like your kryptonite? Do you feel like that's where the cooking lands, or what do you think is your kryptonite?
I would definitely say time. I mean, I've said this a few times, but I've never loved cooking. But if I have more time, I don't mind.
Yeah.
Um, so, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this. I don't think I did, but um, early on in our marriage, I'd use my crock pot a lot, and I would do crock pot meals and things like that. Crock pot isn't a great option for me now because still we're talking 8 hours. Who has time for that? But I do have an Instant Pot, and those things are amazing.
Yes, they are.
So I have fallen in love with that because I can get a whole meal ready in 30 minutes, and it's good and it's easy. Usually when people say things are easy related to cooking and food, I think they're a liar. It's not normally true for me. Rachel Ray, her recipes would drive me nuts because she would be like, look at this 30-minute dish, and it would take
I know.
an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on. So yeah, the Instant Pot has really helped me with time a lot.
I love mine. I was a little hesitant at first because the time was a little expensive, but I ended up like kicking my crock pot to the curb. I'm like, you are useless. Get out. You are difficult to clean, and you don't do your job. You are fired. I love it. I love it. And I'm seeing it's becoming more and more popular. And yeah, I mean, cooking a whole chicken in 35 minutes, what?
It's awesome.
I totally feel you. I feel you on that. I would be curious, what do you guys like to do for desserts? Do you do dessert every night? How do you handle that in your household?
Not for the kids. Sometimes tonight, actually, we had Chinese food for dinner, and I will, if my son asks for something specific, like if he asks for yogurt or if he asks for a treat, I will use that to make sure he eats his food.
Yeah.
So I'll tell him, finish all your food and then you can have your dessert. So tonight, a cookie came with the kids' meal. So I let he and his sister share the cookie, but we don't do desserts every night. Usually if they get dessert, it'll either be fruit. They love strawberries and grapes and bananas, or yogurt. They've recently just fallen in love with yogurt. So
that's good. That's good. Cool. That's really cool. Yeah. If you do dessert, what do you guys like to eat? Whether it's you or
ice cream is for me and my husband. That's our vice for sure.
I love it.
Yeah, we're planning a beach trip in a couple weeks, and so I really need to drop some pounds. But there's ice cream in the freezer, and I'm like, dang it.
Well, you can use my theory. You better eat it all tonight.
Right.
It'll be gone. I'm like, I got to get this out of this house, so I will eat it as fast as possible.
There you go. I like the way you think.
I literally can't buy the stuff. It's so bad. It's
in
my freezer right now, and I'm like, it's talking to me.
Yeah, I know. It wants me to come eat some.
That's so funny. Oh, this has been a lot of fun. Would you like to tell us anything else regarding lifestyle eating, or I'd love for you to also talk about your business if you'd like at the end.
Sure, of course. Yeah, so of course part of the busyness in my house is the fact that I work full time and we've got 2 toddlers and a marriage to maintain and date nights and all that stuff. And then on top of that, I launched a Color Street business about 6 months ago. So when I'm not at work, after the kids go to bed, I'm working on that. And so it's super fun. Color Street are 100% real nail polish strips that don't require any special heat or tools to apply, and they're dry instantly. So, I'm big on time, and they save me time. I don't have to go to the nail salon and spend an hour or 2 anymore. I can do my nails at home. And so that's been honestly a blessing to be able to feel pretty, but also not have to spend a lot of money on it and actually make money since I started building a business. And so that's been really fun. But one more thing that allows me to not cook at night
Yeah, seriously, one more thing on your plate. Well, you probably enjoy it more, right?
I definitely do.
You could do it after they go to bed, so totally. Well, that's a lot of fun. And where can we find you on there? Or
you can find me. My business page is Shine with Tiffany, or my personal Facebook profile is Tiffany Brooks Currie. Currie with an IE.
Awesome. So I'll have a link to that in the show notes.
Awesome.
If you don't mind. And then that way people can connect with you if they want to learn more about it.
Yes, I love that.
Well, I'm really glad we got to connect, and I really appreciate you being super honest about everything and having this totally different view, but it's completely justified and totally relatable. So
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time, and I'm going to let you get yourself to bed, and hopefully your son's not lurking around.
You know what? I haven't even heard him. He might have fallen asleep.
Shocker.